In this module of Fundamentals of HTML5 2nd edition, we'll review the changes to HTML forms. So this includes new input element types as well as the Forms API now available within the browser that supports native validation. So there's a series of new input element types. And what we're used to seeing is, as with the code snippet down here at the bottom, to declare an input type, you would place input and then set the type equal to text. And the text input type is probably the most popular input type. But as we look at these new input type elements, it will be color or data list or date or so on. So they're not different elements in and of themselves, but they're different input types of the input element. Well, let's take a look at each one of these individually, and you'll have an opportunity to see what they look like and what the markup is in order to make them work within a page. To begin, the color element is input type equals color. Now, one of the things about the specification for HTML5 is that it makes no requirements on how these input elements need to look. So this is a screenshot from Chrome, but Opera or Firefox may show their color picker in some other different type of way. Each one of these input types basically says that it needs to provide the value of whether it's a color or a date or on and on. But the UI that it uses is completely up to the developers of that browser. So again, this is what Chrome looks like, but it may appear a little bit different in different browsers. The Datalist type gives you an opportunity to provide a preset number of options available to a text box. So if you notice within the snippet, the input with ID of colors box, that defaults to the input type of text. So this is a regular open text box that you can type anything you want within it. But if you want to provide a known set of options available for that text box, you can add a data list to it. And it's associating that data list by saying the list is equal to the ID of colors in the data list. So this could be used for suggestions or perhaps commonly searched items, or in this case, I'm showing perhaps favorite colors. The date input type renders a calendar picker where you're able to choose a date. Here within Chrome's implementation, it includes spin buttons and a number of different UI elements that make it easier to navigate from one date to the next. The time element gives you an opportunity to specify a certain point in time. And of course, if you put the date and the time together, you get a date time picker. Again, this is how it's rendered within Chrome. It's got the today button, and it gives you an opportunity to choose the day as well as the time. There's also an input element for Datetime-local, which in Chrome doesn't render any different, but basically this gives you an opportunity to provide datetime information that doesn't have to take into account time zones. The month input element gives you an opportunity to choose a specific month within a year. And here within Chrome, as you go down to the picker, you can scroll through different years and then choose an individual month. The week picker gives you an opportunity to choose a single week within a year. Email, URL, and telephone all appear pretty much just like a text box. Now, while they look exactly like a text box, the behavior that's associated to them is a little bit different. As we begin to work with the validation rules that work against each one of these input elements, you'll see how having the type specified as email, URL, or telephone makes a difference on what kind of data is expected to be within that box. Now, the nice thing is if you're working with a browser that doesn't understand these new input types, it'll always fall back to the standard text box. So even if you put a date picker on your screen and the browser doesn't know how to deal with that, you'll still have a text box that's available there for the user to be able to enter in the information that you're looking for. The range element renders a slider which gives you an opportunity to choose a value within a range of numbers. And speaking of numbers, the number input element renders a text box with spin buttons, which allows you to choose values by pressing up and down on the arrows on the screen, or even by using the arrows on your keyboard to go up or down. The nice thing also about this input type is that it will not accept alpha characters. When it's supported, you're restricted to only put in numerical values. And lastly, the search element gives you an opportunity to type in a search term into this box, and it should render the X that we're used to seeing over on the right-hand side, which gives you an opportunity to clear the search if you're not really searching for purple fuzzy ants.